I feel like every drug dealer's dream is to have a zoo. So, of course, our husbands had a zoo. They had the tigers. We had flamingos running around. That right there is putting a stamp on that you made it in the drug world.
Man, Benny, Tuesday's episode at 5 o'clock on the gray line, the story behind the blue line. We got Jay Margarito Flores, one of the Chicago twins that brought down Chapo Guzman.
Yeah.
It's going to be an outstanding episode. He was already once, Benny, on the Gray Line, but on our Wednesday show, Ash Wednesday.
Right.
And he talked, it was a 2-hour show. You remember, Benny, where he talked about his whole life story. But what I like about these next 2 weeks that he's going to be with us as our guest is your idea that you and the team, we're formatting questions that he has never been asked before. Never been asked before. If you don't mind, Benny, can you share with us some of the questions so people that are watching the show don't think that it's a repeat of Ash Wednesday, that these are conversations that we're going to have with him that nobody has asked? Tell us.
When I talked to Jay, he was telling me, he's an open book. I thought, Jay, you tell me that, it's gonna be an open book. And he was good with it. Hey, Benny, he says, just bring it. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
So we talked in detail for quite a bit, and then I've talked to him several other times, and he's good with it. I mean, we're gonna talk about his first days in jail, what he did when he got to his cell, his cellmate, and we're gonna leave that a secret for the show.
God.
Who his cellmate was, and the cellmate didn't know who he was, but obviously he knew who the guy was coming in. And when he saw 5 people escorted him, he said, "This guy's a heavy duty." When he saw him, he said, "Oh shit, he's the enemy." And we'll talk about that, when
and Benny, when you told me who the cellmate was, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, talking about putting the devil and his angels in the same cell. Oh my God, I can't wait. I'm glad you're keeping it a secret, because you know what? I can't wait for our viewers to listen to that story. He's never talked about it. Nobody's ever asked him about that. That's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, and we talked about his first days in jail, his first night, in county versus federal. I mean, and it was heavy. I mean, the guy fucked up, and he says, I fucked up. It was on me, But we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about El Mayo Zambada. I mean, this guy is a high-profile narco. He's an American narco, and I mean, he's not a low-level dealer. He dealt with all the guys that we hear about in the movies, that we hear about that the FBI is looking for, the DEA, Interpol. And we're talking about El Mencho, Los Arellanos, El Mayo, Señor de los Cielos, Los Beltrán Leivas, La Barbie, El Mencho. I mean, we're talking about El Golfo. We're talking about El Golfo, AFO, Jalisco Nueva Generación, Los Zetas, Sinaloa, Los Chapitos. I mean, he's a world. I mean, he met all these guys. He dealt with them.
And you know what, Benny? Another thing that you mentioned that he's going to talk about. He's going to talk also about the kidnappings, the 2 times that his brother was kidnapped in Mexico. Yeah. And one of the stories, when he came out on our show on Ash Wednesday, he just touched on these subjects. We didn't get deep into them because we talked a lot about his father's death. Right. But he didn't really discuss his father's death. And I know either on Tuesday or the following Tuesday, he's going to break it down exactly how it happened, where it happened, when it happened. But there's so many things that this young man. But the thing that I like the most out of our interviews is the end of the story, where he's at today. You know what I mean? He's a born-again Christian. He's now teaching law enforcement. And the things that he's teaching law enforcement are saving lives. But, man, I am excited for Tuesday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on the Gray Line. But, Benny, also on Wednesday, a day before the 4th of July, we're going to have fireworks. We're having fireworks on Tuesday with Jay Flores, and on Wednesday, we have the infamous Carlos Chacon is going to be our guest. And he's going to be talking about Ronnie Ayala, where he's at, what he's doing today. but he's also going to be describing, Benny, and you were a sheriff, so you probably remember this. I believe it was October 18th. I don't have my notes here, but October 18th, 1981, Ronnie, Hector, and another gentleman by the name of David Baez, aka Puppet from Florencia, killed a man in Chula Vista. We're in National City. Carlos responded to the scene. Carlos didn't conduct the investigation because it was one of your cases, the sheriff's. But Carlos is going to break down the homicide. I'm not going to mention the name also. You want to know? Watch the show on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But Benny, it is going to be a deep, that's a homicide that hasn't been solved. And we're hoping, Benny, that after you watch it, you're going to give us feedback and you're going to say, Carlos, I'm going to make a phone call because this is a cold case that needs to be resuscitated. This is a great case. We know that murder doesn't have a statute of limitations. So you know what? Whether it happened in 81 or it happened in 79, but this one was 81, they could still investigate it. And now with DNA, they could come up with some, hopefully, hard evidence to prosecute these guys. And the other thing, Doug Collier is currently working or talking to the investigators that handled, I believe it was called Death Row Incorporated, Murder Incorporated, where Ronnie was running literally a death row murder for hire out of St. Quentin with a cell phone in his cell for several years. This is like 2 or 3 years ago. And Doug is going to break down the case. What do you think about that, Benny? And I know you had a chance to work around or see. Did you get a chance to see Ronnie and Hector Ayala when they were in the county jail?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, you did? You got a chance to work around them?
Yeah. I didn't work with them, but I saw him there, and then obviously we went to San Quentin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we saw him in San Quentin too. We went to death row last year. Yeah, you're absolutely. I forgot about that. But you know what? In this, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk we're going to describe where Ronnie and Hector are today. They're no longer in death row. They're in 2 state prisons here in California. One that's 2 hours away from you in California, San Diego, and the other one, which is a couple of hours away. They're no longer in a SHU program. They're walking the yards, and they're taking over the Mexican mafia. And we're going to be talking about that. Like I said, we're going to have fireworks on Tuesday on the gray line, the story behind the blue line, and on Wednesday, which is the Chain Channel, on Ash Wednesday, we're going to have the story, past, present, and future of Ronnie Ayala. Yeah. It's going to be an outstanding show. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
And David, there's another guy that just got recently brought back. Well, he was one of the top assassins for the Sinaloa. I'm going to ask Jay if he knows him. I'm talking about Nestor Isidro Perez Salas, known as El Nini. He was just recently arrested and brought to the U.S.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, he knows him. Without a doubt.
Yeah. And and I also want to ask Jay about Chicago. They were the heavy players. They were not involved on the streets. They were not street level. They were not even mid level. They were the chingones.
Yeah.
And how did they have any interactions with the Chicago gangs? Because Chicago gangs are some of the most notorious gangs in the country. How was his interaction with the blacks? And the Mexicans down in Chicago.
Oh yeah, Benny, like you said, man, these next 2 weeks with Jay, he's going to answer questions that he's never answered. Well, not answered because they never asked him. Because Jay's an open book, But he's going to be discussing things that nobody has ever asked him before. So I'm telling you, and that intro video that I put where they show the 2 women, that's his wife and his brother, Pedro's wife, and that's his house. Those lions, he had that house. And hopefully, I know that that's gonna be one of the questions to describe that house, describe the rooms. So
it was straight up Scarface, man.
Oh, without not even Scarface. This guy was the real deal. But the beautiful thing about it, and we're gonna end, is that he's serving the Lord today. He's a man of God. He's a man of principle, a man of ethics. And if God could change him, God could change anybody. And with that said, Benny, I'm glad you're back, brother. We said a beautiful prayer for your mom, and we're going to end the show with the house where Jay lived in Mexico. All right, here we go. I'll see you Tuesday, Benny. I'll see you Tuesday.
Thank you for the prayer, man. My mom appreciated that.
Oh, no problem, brother. It was a blessing. It was a blessing. Thank you, brother. We love you. All right, ahí vamos. This is the house.
I feel like every drug dealer's dream is to have a zoo. So, of course, our husbands had a zoo. They had the tigers. We had flamingos running around. That right there is putting a stamp on that you made it in the drug world.